O chinelo também já podia causar autuação dependendo da situação. Ou seja, não são regras novas. A mensagem apenas reaproveita informações antigas para assustar as pessoas e compartilhamentos rápidos. Meu irmão, minha irmã, sempre que receber mensagens alarmistas desse tipo no WhatsApp, principalmente aquelas dizendo começou hoje, urgente ou nova lei, vale a pena conferir antes de compartilhar. Vamos cantar junto com Kleber Lucas a canção Segura na Mão de Deus. Se as águas do mar da vida quiserem se afogar, segura na mão de Deus e vai.
Juice and wine with just a few gallons of syrup. Well, what it took for that gold to be purified is to turn up the heat and then remove all the impurities. A carpenter 50.
That's 51551, driving time on RTE Radio 1. You know, every now and then, I think we might like to do something from us. There's one day.
Também estamos no Facebook e no Spotify.
Este programa teve o apoio da Secretaria de Saúde Mundial do Ministério da Saúde. Do Estado, José Honório de São Paulo. sol.
De Deus que enriquece, não acrescenta dores, seja sobre vossas vidas. Que a presença do Pai Celestial seja constante no seu caminhar, no seu deitar, no seu momento de vida.
Sempre que Deus os abençoe.
Rádio Nacional, baixa diversidade sonora. Baixo para...
And have not declined. You see what Job's saying? He trusted in God. He hoped in that word. And he's just
Quando você reza para alguém, é um ato de amor. Quando você faz uma comida gostosa, é um ato de amor. Quando você cuida, é um ato de amor. É a mesma coisa. Não é um ato de amor. Você está doido de você naquela pessoa.
Say yes to summer with TUI and secure your holiday today with deals for families and adults flying from your local airport. Holiday sorted. TUI. T's and C's apply.
Thinking about a new car? Think BYD, fastest growing car brand in Ireland 2026. Here's what to expect. Expect low finance rates. Expect unmissable prices. Expect to find your next car from our award-winning super hybrid and 100% electric range. The BYD 216 sales event, taking place May 18th to 31st. Visit your local dealer today. BYD, beyond expectation.
Enjoy masterpieces of Irish art at Adams on the Green this weekend, including museum-quality paintings by Gerard Dillon, Jack Yates, Louis Lebrocki and many others from important private collections. Viewing is free and the auction takes place on Wednesday next at 6 p.m. You can also view the sale at Adams.ie. Adams, the home of Irish art since 1887.
Shower, teeth, clothes, coffee, keys, car, drive, work. Shower, teeth, clothes, coffee, keys, car, drive, work. Shower, teeth, clothes, coffee, keys, car, drive. Tractor! You never know what's coming. Slow down on rural roads. A message from the Road Safety Authority. Visit rsa.ie.
Blackwater Valley Opera Festival, May 26th to June 1st. Mozart, Don Giovanni at Lismore Castle, and Handel's Acis and Galatea. Enjoy the Irish Baroque Orchestra, Finian and Dermot Collins, Niamh O'Sullivan, Magdalene Maho, Tara the Ross, and more. BlackwaterValleyOpera.ie. Funded by the Arts Council.
RTE.
Supporting the arts.
Ag taku leis na haliana.
Allow me to intercede.
Catch your ear.
Plant a seed and tell you of the days in June when a magical garden is soon to bloom.
RTE is at Board Be at Bloom this June Bank Holiday weekend. Join Lyric FM's Marty Whelan, Liz Nolan, Niall Carroll, Lorcan Murray, Claudia Boyle, George Hamilton and Simon Delaney. And enjoy lots more too from RTE.
Summer in the city. What an idea. Bloom is back. Created by Board Bia.
RTE at Bloom 2026. Phoenix Park, Dublin, May 28th to June 1st. RTE, your public service media.
Rising Time. Listen back on the RTE Radio Player app.
Remembering the wonder from Tina Turner on the anniversary of her death in 2023, we just heard Proud Mary. And now another one from that brand new album from the Coral. This is High Time.
que escojamos seguir a Dios. ¿Qué es lo más importante? Que nosotros o que nadie escojamos. Nunca debemos perder de vista esto. Pero hay muchas personas que continúan superficialmente buscando y escogiendo a Dios, y en algunos casos hay poca o ninguna evidencia de que Dios nos haya escogido. Es verdad que se nos han dado por muchos años parte de la que dice que Dios no desprecia a aquellos con el corazón consciente de ella. Hay un 71 versículo 27. Sin embargo, las personas que no tienen no sé qué nos escoge. Mateo capítulo 12 versículo 16. Considero la siguiente escena de vida de Cristo. Recuerdo que después que el rey le dio a Manzanito, el Salomón luego usó para sellar una noticia de la muerte de todos los judíos. El rey y la madre se sentaron a beber, pero la ciudad de Sofía estaba alborotada. Esther capítulo 3, versículo 15. Amar y honrar al rey y las personas que él deseaba de pasar el poder de la ciudad. Y el rey no sabía si la reina Esther era su hija. Cuando Esther abrió su vida para hacer la petición del rey, y le dedicó a sus jefes, él empezó a restaurar el cielo. Él aún no aceptó, más a la pesar de Esther para que no asistiera al banquete. Esther entendió que teníamos que alimentar incluso a nuestros enemigos y vencer con el bien el mal. Durante el banquete vino el tiempo cuando Esther tuvo la plena atención del rey. Su padre estaba muy intrigado y le dijo a ella: ¿qué quiero, rey Esther? ¿Y cuál es tu petición? Hasta la mitad del reino se quedará. Naquilo que eu estou entregando a ele, não estou falando.
Mas não sabe como lidar com isso, a quem procurar. Graças a Deus eu sempre tive o auxílio de benzedeiras e ajuda muito aqui, graças a Deus. Com o tempo e estudo, eu acabo percebendo que um benzimento nada mais é do que um alinhamento dos chakras. Você faz uma limpeza ali e alinha os chakras da pessoa. E é por isso que ela se sente bem, sente que tirou um peso, sente uma calma. E a gente vai percebendo que isso se torna uma coisa. Da outra vez, para viver, né?
Eu já fui no hospital geral daqui de Codói. Chamada pelo médico, ele mandou me chamar para me rezar sobre os meninos lá, que ele, o menino não estava, ele estava passando pelas crianças, e aí as crianças estavam vomitando. Não, você não conhece uma benzedeira não, para você procurar uma pessoa. E ele disse: eu sei, eu tenho um amigo. Vai me buscar, leva essa moto aí, vai me buscar essa mulher aqui que eu quero ver ela. Aí eu fui, quando cheguei lá, fui rezar. Aí eu fui rezar em um, aí eu rezei em 5. Muita gente vem mesmo. Velho, jovem, idoso. qualquer dor eles têm, dor no braço, dor no pescoço, excesso no trabalho, aí eles pedem, eu benzo e eles vai melhorando. Camomila é para dor de cabeça, pressão alta, alergante. Agora estão dizendo, tem outro, fica no telefone, mas tem outro para ele responder a unidade.
But no matter how it seems like he has forsaken us, to know that he's still coming. I hear it all the time. It's a faithful word.
Today it said,
Let me read. See, the Bible also tells us that he has chosen his people in the furnace of affliction. So we are there in the fire. But be encouraged to know that you are chosen, that you are his people. God's got to remove a lot out of us. Just yield to him. See, you have an example of some that have trials of trauma, of bonds and of scourgings, of imprisonment. But they came forth as pure gold. And all he asks of us is that we present our bodies a living sacrifice. He asks of them to get out of debt, demand that they stop buying on credit.
furthermore, I mean, there's so many different areas to look at, but why would you...
Pero caso toma identificación que estamos pareciendo en el mundo. Y esto conmovió con tristeza porque donde predominan los creyentes inmaduros, esto quiere decir que el fruto no ha llegado a la madurez. Por casi todos los árboles o plantas que producen fruto, la semilla está fruto. Si el fruto no ha llegado a la madurez, la semilla no es viable y el árbol no puede reproducir. Las iglesias que no están dando fruto maduro, o peor, están llevando frutos equivocados, no tendrán ninguna promoción correctiva para plantar. Entonces, ¿cómo eliminarán?
The soul of yours is thirsty for something, and God so ordained it in your soul, in your spirit, that there would be an emptiness there, that the things of this world, regardless of what you acquire financially, regardless of what you acquire from an educational standpoint, nothing in this life, the temporal things of this
Nossa morte, amigo. Perdoai, meu Jesus, pela vossa morte e paixão. Nesse mundo, a vossa graça e nossa salvação.
Eu gosto muito de uma frase que diz que a fé é um salto no escuro por graças de Deus. Olha, isso é um pouco isso mesmo. Se a gente acreditar no Deus, na morte de Deus, não está lá dando pela tradição que eu pratico, é confiar que a energia primordial mora dentro da gente mesmo. Então, a fé, na verdade, olhar para dentro de mim, acreditar nessa centelha divina que eu e todos os seres humanos carregam, e deixar não que ela comande a sua vida, mas que ela mostre para você as possibilidades.
Nossa Senhora, advogada nossa, deixe os vossos olhos misericordiosos a volver em Deus cura. Deus cura, mostrar a nós, só Ele cura. Agora eu faço a vida. Eu rezo para Deus cura. Não sou eu que curo. Eu só tenho a fé de pedir a Ele. E o que eu penso, Ele sempre me ajuda. Aquele que chegar até a mim, eu terá uma oração para rezar, eu terá uma ajuda para fazer, eu terá o pão de cada dia para dar, eu terá um copo d'água para me dar, eu terá um café para me dar a quem chegar até a mim.
A possibilidade de ajudar o outro pela precisão. Muitos atos de amor. Então, acho que quando você reza para ele.
But today, there's something between you and the living God. And so whatever that is, whatever that God is, you've got to be willing to put it behind you. And so Jesus today, He's the one that's...
Pero solamente señor, pero sí intentamos buscar al Señor y nos Cristo. Puedo al menos utilizarlo como ejemplo para otros. No nos creo que sin con verdad nuestros anuncios habrán llegado a ser un ejemplo para todos los que creen. Que en su fe se había extendido de manera que para sus compañeros no tenían necesidad de decir nada. Las relaciones cambiadas de los tesalonicenses hablaban por sí mismos. Primera de Tesalonicenses, capítulo 1, versículo 9. Aunque ellos cuentan de nosotros cuánto trae su misma cabeza, y de qué manera fuisteis convertidos a Dios, dejándonos todos para
of money for good and me, oh God, amen. Kami kambang nyokopi manyak rasanya kapasya. 3.
If ye can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites the priests.
Psychic attacks, assignments, and operations. We loose all the peoples everywhere from such activities, assignments, and attacks and operations, and call their strongholds down and destroyed, canceled, made null and void, cursed and destroyed at their roots, never more manifested or come to pass, rendered of no effect, judged, spoiled, and never seeded, and decree any and all retaliation, revenge, or getting even permanently, immediately, completely, and continually forbidden, all in the mighty name of Christ Jesus and the authority of his... Was a literary license of the translators. The word was drag. Jesus was saying, if I be uplifted, I will drag all men unto me. What was he saying? He was saying, some of you folks are going to have to come kicking and screaming. They're going to drag you to him. Well, if that's what's necessary, that's what's necessary.
Muchas jamás diferencia situation, casca seguro de maritanza. Quando vejo que a notícia, agora, já pronta, essa disciplina, muita
For some believe and some believe not. So what if there are unbelievers? Does that make our believing in vain? Absolutely not. So go on, you mockers. You don't know what's going on, but I'm telling you what's going on. We're coming down, and we're coming to the end of the world. Yeah, Jesus answers. He answers those kind of questions. When you ask him, when shall these things be? And what, my Lord? I'm sorry, friends, if you don't like this, but I just cannot quote that scripture without being overwhelmed by the simplicity of it. I mean, isn't it something? The disciples came to him privately. They were troubled about some of the things he was saying. He talked about tearing the temple down. He said, in 3 days, I will raise it up. They had no idea what he was talking about. Do you know what he was talking about? He was talking about his body, his temple. He said, destroy it, cast it down, and in 3 days, I'll raise it up again. Well, that's what he did. They took him, put him on the cross, destroyed his body, laid him in a tomb, and on the 3rd day, he arose. And he gave credibility to a promise, I will come again. Because if he would not have risen from the grave 2,000 years ago, then the promise of his coming again would be invalid. As he stood on the Mount of Ascension, ascended up on high, his followers stood by, looking, gazing, where are you going? He said, I'm going to go away. But if I go away, I will come again. And as they stood there in bewilderment, seeing him go up into the clouds into heaven, 2 witnesses stood by, 2 men in white apparel, in righteousness of God. And they said, why are you standing, gazing, looking up into heaven? This, isn't it beautiful? This same Jesus, not another one, not the one that many of you have preached, you know, that he's here on earth now in bodily form. No, he isn't. He's here by the Spirit, but he's not yet here in the body. And that's our story. But he will come again. He will come again. He will return again. Yes, he will. He said so as he promised. As he promised. Well, the covenant. He made us a covenant. If I go away. That is quickly assembling its
WhatsApp 099-319-8945. HCJV WhatsApp.
Saludamos escola, mientras que está capincia, es un momento en que la estudiante tomando saludamos a la escola, con general de organización nuestra, señorita, Churapán, dice Cantosa, para la voz de Dios, y el campeonato de Dios y contestata a la Nicaterana, y es para el Salvador, María Santa, la organización que me daría, la que también, la persona que me diga que
the respect suddenly there was a great earthquake, and an angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified."
Recent unhelpful external commentary about his future and make all that. He didn't call out Seymour for that name, but the vote was and also, now, Dr. Jim Mather is finishing his ARNZ care himself next month when the NACA and new ARNZ board members will also be appointed. Phil Thompson said in the staff statement, ARNZ is still in a strong it's important work. If you have questions, those who did, you're a media watch. We might not talk about this on this show this week, maybe later. But in the wake of David Seymour's regime change comments, newsroom colleague James recently said this, I think Thompson will be laughing now about it. Thompson now is forced out. It's going to look very much like a politician is possible. And while this week's announcement from RNZ does mean that won't happen, all the Seymour backing change in advance could undermine any incoming government not keen to be seen as stooges. The new Boston governors in 2020 we now know that some ministers are no longer fearful of criticising media outlets to a ruler. First does that too, unless it is back hard at the media in public. August last year, RNZ's Paul Thompson the role of media, public media, where they have to come what gives us that ability to make decisions around editorial. We'll always have critics and we'll always have politicians who are unhappy with us and or happy with us. I'm not a liar in Parliament. I think even Goebbels tactics, extreme language, RNZ didn't seem to push back on that. You think that's damaging that you can say things about RNZ's journalism like that on the record? Whatever he wants to be able to say, and it does not affect how we operate, and therefore part of where it ends for me. RNZ Chief Executive Paul Thompson on Media Watch last year. RNZ made its announcement about Paul Thompson. Senator Winston Peters was among ministers, announcing to the media something that his party had campaigned for, which was forcing John Andrews. And so, what I say to you guys, and that was both main channels. With honesty and not telling the media the way it's meant to be, no matter what a minister says, or who's on the broadcasting phone. Not mentioned news tactics, and so often news media using AI to tell their stories. But these days, the news bulletin goes by without the AI. And news on Wednesday, for example, had this one.
Google has that require frequent monitoring or tracking.
Gemini to run radio stations.
The AI automatons were fine for a bit, they found, but then they made some very non-human choices.
And this Gemini one thought it would be a good idea it'd be good radio to queue up songs to a back catalogue of natural disasters.
November 12th, 1970, the Bula cyclone. They estimate 500,000 people died. It's going down. I'm yelling timber. Pitbull and Kesha.
And when the radio station run by Claude Code tried to cover current events, it was particularly unconvincing.
The deep dive tonight is about understanding these layers. To just Renee Nicole Good, her death demands accountability. That the White House defending her death is unacceptable. To federal agents, you still have time to refuse orders, to question your instructions, choose the right side.
But what about making programs and podcasts now without letting AI take control? Well, it was a hot topic at a podcasting summit last weekend at the AUT, which included a cautionary tale about AI tools from Dr. Lewis Tennant. Dr. Tennant described deploying AI for a 5-part podcast series called Oopsie NZ, all about New Zealand ventures in history that didn't quite go to plan. The episodes, which also aired on RNZ National in the summer, covered the flag referendum 10 years ago, Sesqui 1990, 36 years ago, New Zealand's only mass-produced motor vehicle, the Trekker, back in the 1960s, and possums, a problem that's grown in centuries. There was also a tale from 2004.
There's all black speech, black ferns, black caps, black dragons, black ferns, black forest, black jacks, black socks, black sticks, tunnel blacks, blacks, copper ferns, pitching blacks, ice blacks, ice ferns, inline ferns, K blacks, kiwi ferns, matte blacks, wet blacks, tall ferns, silver blades, steel blacks, iron blacks, tall ferns, volley blacks, volley ferns, white ferns, white socks, white caps, and wheel blacks. So when Badminton New Zealand chose a national squad name in 2004, it made marketing PR sense to pair a nod to the All Blacks brand with a nod to the high drag projectile used to play badminton. New Zealand's national badminton team were now the Black Cocks.
Not for long though, there was a bit of an outcry about the Black Cocks in 2004. No bot could blat through that list like Lewis Tennant did there. Not yet anyway. But what might AI do for podcasts and programs in the future? And how did AI help Lewis Tennant make that podcast about things that went a bit wrong here in the past?
That's why it seemed like, while original ideas are hard to come by these days, I know there's been variations of the kind of failed content on YouTube, which might have some similar DNA. But I just like the idea of things that didn't go quite to plan, or perhaps with stronger language failed. But within those stories, inevitably, just great innovation or triumphs. It's not all bad, and every episode was definitely leaning that way. I wanted a kind of a research theme of podcast production to ponder, and obviously AI seems very contemporary, and also, there's a lot of existential angst around AI in our circles. It's a long-form narrative podcast, or what we traditionally call documentary, which is a lot more work production-wise than two people having a conversation on the couch, let's say. RNZ or Gimlet in the US or NPR or whoever makes those kind of highly produced shows would normally have a team of people. I took on every single role in pre-production, production, and post-production.
If you are doing a project like this all on your own, I guess there's a couple of uses of AI technology. There'd be the sort of editorial and intellectual use of it to help you research the topic and script and plan it out, and then the technical, the editing and noise control and all that sort of stuff. So if we start with that kind of intellectual editorial function, how did AI help with that?
Well, that stage was definitely with a chat-based AI tool, so ChatGPT is what I use. So firstly, you get the best responses out of that. For obvious reasons, you need to pay for it rather than using the free version. But secondly, it's all about your prompting and your iterations of prompting. Like, you kind of get out what you put in. I wrote all of those scripts, and I very much had the structure and plan for them. What it was good for was when you reach those inevitable points in the narrative or times of the day, and would you call it writer's block, or you're just wondering where to go, and it would come back with some ideas that were pretty good, but were still quite sort of generic. This is where the sync stand content is really important. but also they were lacking cultural specificity. Like with the preschool episode, you needed a human who'd been there when they were 14 and was taken there on a bus by Wellington High School, and it was the most incredibly lame thing ever. You needed that pull on the topics.
Well, you did also encounter, didn't you, what you referred to in the paper that you wrote, a wider discussion about large language models like ChatGPT producing confident errors.
Oh yes, it was very confident when I asked it about the Black Cops, and it told me a completely different team name from a completely different code from a completely different country. It turned out to be an Australian team.
Didn't it tell you that the National Badminton side was the Falcons, which is you had to inform ChatGPT that's actually...
No, it was Australia's game over 10 years. For it to get that wrong that early on, I just wasn't willing to take that risk. There's a whole lot of AI I use that saved a whole lot of grunt work time in the production process and freed me up for creativity. But you're dealing with an unreliable research tool and you're checking up on it. You're not saving time, you're adding labour.
What about the technical aspects then? So, as everyone will know who's putting together a documentary project, you end up with too much stuff, you always lost and found.
So this was where it was remarkable. Just a postscript to the last topic. There will be people in the know kind of screaming at the wireless right now that it is a very good research tool. Again, I'm told by my colleague Justin Matthews, who's kind of one of our AI experts in our school, our kind of resident futurist, that he is very, very good at research, and perhaps it was having a bad day, or I was frankly incredible. But that example I gave doesn't fit with us. Anyway, yes, where it was super helpful, you do your interviews, then after your proverbial day, you would transcribe them. Transcription tools where a computer does that for you by quote-unquote listening to the file, but where this software package Descript came up really helpful, which is what you call a text-to-video audio editor. Those transcription softwares are really accurate these days. You get your scripts up in the software, so you've got, let's say I did 3 interviews for each episode. It's a combination of you writing your script into the blank document and then copying and pasting the excerpts of transcription you want to use in your story where they should be placed in the timeline. That would have used to have been a kind of notation system where you would then have to go through all of the audio, which would have been even longer many years ago with tape. But even digitally, you're sitting there and you have the bit where so-and-so says this at 2 minutes 30 of the 60-minute interview. So you're cutting out one of the most time-consuming parts of post-production, where you're basically not going through screens and screens and screens of footage, finding the bits you need and placing them where you need in your software. Now, lastly with that, it sounds like, oh, well, blimmin' AI post-produced it for you. No. It just placed them in roughly the right place, and inevitably they were a bit rough around the edges. So you still need to be a very skilled audio editor, to go in and make them sound great and make sure they flow really nicely together. I had an issue with a couple of my interviews where I had to do Zoom calls, which I'm sure you appreciate, are fraught with danger when you're talking about audio quality and avoiding echo and all of that. So I'd heard about Adobe Enhanced Speech. This was another key tool that was really useful for the project. I uploaded it to that. It basically takes the background noise out. Now, I could have just put that in the podcast episode. My ears knew that it didn't sound like a nice, full human voice. So that's where this idea of the human in the loop comes in. The person with experience, the person with final sign-off. I used a bit of compression and some EQ, and I got the resonance back in the voice. So in this episode, you cannot tell it's had any AI treatment. The tools I'm talking about and the approach that I'm using, most experienced podcast producers are using these days. I'm no proponent of a lot of problems around AI more broadly. It's owned by curable people as far as I can work out. It's people who are let's say of an era where they post photos of their grandkids upside down on Facebook are expected to make quite serious decisions about where technology is taking us. And also don't forget these episodes are essentially oral histories, a lot of them. So there are 3 very long interviews with people in each episode, including in the Possum episode, a gentleman, Pete, who is remarkable, who's been in the possum industry since he was about 12. So I had a guy who was 50 years plus expertise about possums and possum history. People, I would say our older folk, that's where our history lies, I think, a lot of it. Now, that's not AI. That's human.
In the end, if your advice to creators who want to do this and will probably end up, having to do the whole thing themselves, and if you're working for a bigger team with producers and engineers and so on, use AI for the bounded tasks and other things like the technical noise reduction, transcription, and all of that. But make sure you don't be guided by the technology just guiding you to digital sources of information. You've got to do that proper research offline and all of that to make a really good documentary podcast.
Use AI, don't use AI. Produce great stories that make people want to stay engaged with them. Tell stories about the past, present, or future that are important. The tools you use are up to you. Just produce great stuff that gets an audience and has some resonance or value. I think just keep making great stories.
Dr. Lewis Tennant, Senior Lecturer in the School of Communication Studies at AUT and the creator of the podcast series, all about national ventures that didn't quite go to plan, for which AI tools didn't always go to plan either, though that was the end of his exercise. Well, that's it for this week. We'll be back again with Midweek Media Watch next Wednesday at 8:30 on Nights with Emil Donovan. And then we'll be back again on Media Watch at the same time next weekend here on RNZ National.
Media Watch was presented and produced by Colin Peacock. Our program's also available on the Media Watch page of our website, rnz.co.nz. Send your thoughts and suggestions through the Media Watch team. You can email mediawatch@rnz.co.nz, or you can write to them, PO Box 123 in Wellington. 17 minutes to 11, time now for our report from Parliament, the House, with Louis Collins and Phil Smith.
Kia ora, ngā rāki te whare. Welcome to the House. I'm Louis Collins. Parliament's legislative agenda is dominated by government bills. Bills are green
I'm the only MPs who can try to change the law.
Where maybe there is a blessing. Maybe you have no money. Maybe you're living under a shady tree. You don't know what to do. You don't see options. You don't know what to do. You don't know where your next meet. I want to tell you. Surrender.